In this video, I'll show you how to make the effect of parallel lines along a path. The kick map of the New York subway system, which I've got a clip of right here, is a good example of this effect, where you have multiple lines that are offset from each other, and therefore have different radii around a curve, but nonetheless follow the same general path. There's no single good way of accomplishing this in Illustrator, and each strategy I've come up with has its upsides and its downsides. The one you choose should be based on what flexibilities you want for editing your offsetted lines after initially creating them. The first strategy here is a bit cumbersome and it makes use of clipping masks, but offers ultimate flexibility for changing the path of the clustered lines or being able to expand the cluster into individual lines later in your design process. So I've made these little endpoint caps here, and say that you wanted to draw a multiple parallel line segment between these two endpoints. My first step would be to come over and grab the pen tool, and I'm going to turn off my smart guides because I don't really want to be dealing with them right now, and I'm just going to draw sort of a curvy segment of line between these 2 points. And I'm going to make sure that that path is in my paths layer just so we can keep everything organized here. So my strategy for getting multiple strokes along this line is actually going to be to, in the appearances panel, add multiple strokes and then either offset them from the line or change whether they're drawn on the inside or the outside of the line. And interestingly, in order to be able to define what the inside and the outside of the line is, we need this to be a closed path. It can't just be a straight line segment from one point to another. It has to go around and meet itself at the end so the Illustrator knows what the inside and the outside of the path are. So in order to close this path, I'm going to come back over and get the pen tool, and I'll turn Smart Guides back on now by hitting Control U, and that'll just help me keep this a bit organized as I go around and meet back at the other end. So I'm going to grab that endpoint and just click onto it so I'm making the line longer, and I'm just going to work my way around the frame here until I can connect back up to that other endpoint. And you'll see that the pen cursor has that little circle on it, which demonstrates that I'm coming around to close that path. So now that I have that taken care of, over in the Appearances panel, I can add another stroke. And then if I click into this stroke options dialog, I can specify whether I want to line that stroke to the inside or the outside. So I'll choose inside for that stroke, and I'm going to make it, let's say, red, and I'll make it 6 points just so we can see it a little bit easier. And with this stroke down here, I'm going to put it to the outside, and let's make that one blue. Make it a little bit better blue, and then also 6 points. So you can see that's given us the effect we want of 2 parallel lines that are attached to this center path, and if we were to come and edit that center path, the placement of it, those 2 parallel lines would follow each other. So this is giving us a lot of flexibility about the position of that. I can also add a third stroke to this so that I have a third color of line that's parallel. I just want to make sure that I'm selecting this stroke that I'm changing, and then I'll add yet another one to the Appearances panel. And then I'm going to come up to Effect, Path, and offset that path by 6 points so that it's going to sit just outside of this middle stroke. Okay? And then I can change the color of that to, let's say, yellow. And I also want to pull that to the outside of the line so that it's going to be offsetting 6 points from the outside edge of that path. So there I've got my 3 strokes together, and I could keep adding them and just adding larger and larger offsets, and I get strokes that will always follow each other when I move that path around. You've still, however, got the path that goes around and meets itself on the other side, and you'd really rather that this just be a single segment of path. So in order to do that, we actually need to put a clipping mask around this path. I'm again going to get my pen tool, and then with the Smart Guides turned on, I'm just going to snap the first vertex of this new shape to that corner where I want this line to end, and then I'm just going to draw any sort of polygon that is going to encompass this area that I want to be visible, and come back and join it so that it's a closed polygon. So now I have a polygon describing the area of that line that I want to be visible. And if I go ahead and select both the shape that I just drew and the path that I want to apply the clipping mask to, right click and say Make Clipping Mask, then I'll only be able to see that portion of the path that is contained inside that clipping mask. So this gives us a lot of flexibility because, as I said before, we can still come back and select this path with the Direct Select tool and change its position with all the handles, and those lines that are parallel will stay together.